Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. It was a balmy summer evening in Larchmont. I parked a few blocks away and I enjoyed the walk and the beautiful evening to Chevrolet Books there on Larchmont. I was there 200 miles from home to present author Jenny Boyd to her fans and to discuss her new book, Icons of Rock. In their own words, a Q&A would follow. I arrived early. Jenny wasn't there yet. A lady sat, fidgeting, looking worried, distraught. She told me that she had arrived early to get a seat in the front row. She had traveled from San Francisco, over 600 miles away, to the north to meet Jenny. She also told me that she had admired Jenny since she was a little girl living in Texas, and she'd seen Jenny and her sister Patty Boyd modeling on a magazine cover. She felt connected to Jenny all her life somehow, and she told me that she wanted to live that life that she saw on that magazine cover. It seemed so far away from her real life, growing up poor in rural Texas. But when she heard that Jenny would be signing books in LA, she made that long journey to that little bookstore in Larchmont. She was so scared about being late that she rushed out of her hotel room and she forgot both of the copies of Jenny's books that she had brought to have her sign. I met another man who had arrived early and he sat in the front. He smiled at me from ear to ear and expressed his joy and excitement for being there in this moment. He had a glow about him. We started to talk, and he told me that he was in the music business. Later, I found out that he had understated this fact. That's because he's the ultimate music insider's insider. He's an unwitting fixture in rock and roll history. He's crossed paths and recorded with music and entertainment legends such as Jardine, of the Beach Boys, Bad Company, David Bowie, and Sammy Hagar. He survived the AIDS era and has lived such an improbable life that he feels he has been divinely guided. He's a songwriter and a music producer, an entrepreneur, tech advisor, and a #1 Amazon Books author for Do What You Love, songwriting. He's affectionately called by people who know him the Forrest Gump of rock and roll. And he comes today bringing us gifts, not just one, but two. We're going to world premiere 2 new songs with you, the listener. This is amazing. The unreleased Al Jardine of the Beach Boys song, Wish. It's going to be out soon, but you get to hear it first, right here on the Jeremiah Show. Second world premiere, we're going to play an unplugged version of The Love by Sammy Hagar. It's co-written by Sammy, Neil Schon, and Larry Dvoskin. Welcome, Larry. How are you?
I'm great. Do you mind? Can I just bring you with me everywhere?
Where are we going? I know it'll
It's
be
great.
fun.
We're going on a wild, like Huckleberry Finn like adventure through
I don't
life.
even care. The answer is yes,
Well,
Larry.
it's very kind of you to say these things, and I think that having a spirit of curiosity and adventure, and also sort of you know, a mixture of awe and mischief, like keep a person young. And so I've been very lucky, and I don't take that for granted. And, I'm honored to be here and to share all these stories, hopefully to delight and surprise the people who discover the show and find little pieces of it and listen to songs. My job is to be fun and have people leave here feeling better than when they started.
Well, I said it about you then, my first impression, which as they say, they're so important. My first impression of you was almost childlike. And I mean that in the best way. Like what you just, you said life is an adventure, and you kind of follow where it leads you. You follow your curiosity, you follow your the path that leads you to certain places, like Larchmont, like the bookstore that night, like this book signing. I mean, how did you end up there? Where how did that adventure start for you? And the second part of that is, isn't it great when you just say yes to things and you go, you meet, like I met you, and now we're having this great conversation and we get to share your amazing life story with more people, and it just grows. But you got to say yes first. You got to show up.
Amen. Do you want the concert version from Sammy Hagar forward, or just from the "How did I end up there" from the plane ride with my partner?
I want you to tell it however it comes to you. I mean, it's
I don't want to make it too long, but here's the net is that I am a longtime songwriting partner with Sammy Hagar. First of all, Sammy, when I met him in the 90s, pulled up like if you looked up rock star in a dictionary, like pulls up in a convertible Lamborghini, big hair. We record company sent me to write songs, so I'm in like Northern California, and like I find myself shortly like with my arms around a tree, like we're tree hugging before we write songs, like near his house, and it's like I'm looking over at him and he's hugging the tree and we're talking. I'm like what kind of a job is this? My mom wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. Instead, I'm with some crazy man with long hair hugging trees, and we just went face to face. And so fast forward to December of 2023, I go to Maui with my partner Nikita. I see Sammy's doing this big benefit concert that they hold every year with all the rock stars of the West Coast and beyond. And I think, how do I get in? Like guest list. And I call him, I say, dude, like I gotta come. And he's like, oh my God, my wife and kids and grandkids and this. And the host, Shep Gordon, there's a movie Supermensch about him, is gonna just kill me. But maybe I can get you in. And he calls the next day, he says, dude, like this guy, Pat Monahan from Train, he has this song, Drops of Jupiter. I don't know. It's like weird. It has weird time signatures. You go play and we'll get you in. So then Shep says, while you're at it, do you mind learning the Hollywood Vampire set that, break on through to the other side and, some of the Alice songs? So I learned that. And then they send me a list and I think, I'm just going to ask them for the song list and I'm going to learn Lucas Nelson songs, Dave Mason songs, Mick Fleetwood songs, Richie Sambora songs, the live versions. And they're right on YouTube. And so when I walked into the rehearsal, I had my gig to play one song, and I came with my partner Nikita Privalov. But suddenly, when I met Lucas Nelson, I'm like, I learned your song and I know the harmony. And he was like, thank God, the keyboard player didn't show up. So I got to play with all of these greats. Now I can't tell you when you're playing "Feeling All Right" with Dave Mason, and you were playing that song in eighth grade. I'm in my 60s, so eighth grade was a while ago. Like it's some weird time warp. It's like you went into the movie, like you were in the audience and you like got into the screen, like that Woody Allen movie. So on the way home, I stayed. First of all, it was unbelievable. And then on the way home, my partner Nikita, who's a chef and an actor and a drummer, is sitting next to a woman who's like staring at him. And after a while, she introduces herself, and he's got this little like preppy jacket. She's like, my dad would love that jacket. So talking, and he's like, who are you? And she's like, my name's Lucy Fleetwood. And he looks at her like,
You do an excellent Lucy Fleetwood
yeah.
impersonation, by the way.
And she's like, Dad's a pop star. The word pop is like pop star, very British. And so thanks to my partner Nikita, he said, Lucy called me and her mom, who was married to Mick or whatever, like they're doing the book signing. So that's how I came, is really you're like a leaf in the river of life.
Yeah.
Just flow with it. I mean, a lot of bad happens. We know that, but good happens as well.
That's a beautiful way to put that. A leaf in the river.
Yeah.
I love that.
We're all leaves in the river, flowing through time.
Well, can I go back? Can I take you back to that childhood? You've already mentioned it a little bit. Um, you're a self-described you said you're an awkward kid from New
Yeah.
Jersey. First, where in New Jersey?
So do
So I did
my,
spend
yeah.
and do those go together? They don't.
No, I mean, I wish I was born in like Asbury Park, because then I would have been going to the Stone Pony and met the Asbury Jukes, or, oh, you see, I just, the AI here, like I just raised my hand and the AI didn't. The AI raised my, I was just being a Jew. I was being dramatic, but the
Don't
awkward,
worry, I'm gonna call on you next.
yeah, the awkward kid thing was being Jewish in a Catholic town, being unathletic, growing up in the 70s, which was a great time. But in sixth grade, these kids came in and played guitars and played Hey Jude and Let It Be. Every girl swooned and every guy thought, like, that's cool. Why can't I do that? And I was kind of a nerd. My mom was a teacher, and I grew up in a household of records from my dad. But walking home, I had a Kevin Costner Field of Dreams moment, like The Voice.
Yeah.
If you do this, you will be successful. And I was like, what do you mean? And like that movie. And I just knew from an
Wait, what
early,
did the voice tell you to do,
it just
Larry?
said, if you want to be a musician, you
Okay.
will succeed at it. It didn't tell me when, what bands, what year, what song. It just said, if you want to go toward music as a career, you'd be successful. And so I had a kind of deeper knowing that most people look for and sometimes take a lifetime to find. I just
Hmm.
knew. And that was very lucky, because I went from the nerdy, unpopular kid in middle school to playing at my own freshman class reception at Dumont High School with my band. I ran for president, became president of the class, and I was also the pot dealer. So I appealed to different interest groups, like the football players, like, we'll give you new lights for the field. The stoners, here's a joint. And that's the 70s in a nutshell. And I just took off from there. It was very fortunate.
So you had admiration. You kind of looked at these rock stars, these people that played in bands, and then you now find yourself in high school in that position as well. Did you feel admiration from your classmates now? Did you start to feel like you belong?
Great question. Because, how everybody listening, how does it feel when you post something online and you get all these clicks or likes? It's an intoxicating feeling. Attention is an intoxication by itself. And so I went from not being very popular to suddenly all these people who, I was kind of like following them around, suddenly were like, how'd he get up there? And suddenly, like, girls were calling. Back in the day when you had like a phone book, like an actual physical one, like suddenly girls were calling and
Little
saying,
black book.
you know, people I didn't know. And it was just it taught me the beauty and the danger of popularity, that it is a drug and you can get very addicted to it. But luckily I was around people, and we'll get into it later, in some of the rock star friends that I've befriended, who taught me about humility and groundedness, that I think kept me on the rails. But at the time, like, I went, like, there's a myth, the ugly duckling and the swan, or the Cinderella thing. I had a Cinderella moment, like sudden popularity, especially at a crucial time, high school, where so many people are, the brain is still forming, and so that popularity, I was probably kind of inflated my head a bit too much, but that's what happens when you're young. But I went to 1 year of college studying music and business, and then I got a offer to join a band called Fandango, kind of like Poco, the Eagles, that kind of big harmony group, and signed to RCA. And I thought, do I want to study music and business or just be in the music business? And so literally I quit college after 1 year, suddenly was opening for Tom Petty, the Allman Brothers, all these people I used to play in cover bands,
Wow.
like hanging with them. So it's
Wow.
surreal. And everybody was really nice because it was the 70s and they were all high.
Uh, that's incredible. So again, did you hear the voice again when you were studying? Like, you can do it. You can
Yeah, I mean,
be in a band.
I think
Just
by
make
that
music.
time, I think by that time I was like, the voice was probably like knocking on the door, and I was like, I'm really busy. Like, come back like tomorrow. Like as you know, once you get into a momentum, it's moving, and so I have felt that presence of whatever you want to call it, just fate, higher power, many times in my life in different settings. But that first time of a kind of deeper knowing that, it's not like you're
Hmm.
talking to yourself, but that has guided my life. There's some kind of strange thing with mixture of rock stars and ghosts that I still haven't worked out, but I'll take.
So are you looking at my questions? Because that was my next question. I'm fascinated by this. You say that you've been that ghosts have communicated to you, that they have steered you right or given you advice or what? Tell me, how have they come into your life? If you don't mind, I think it's fascinating.
Well, when my mother was pregnant with me, my 4-year-old older brother in Newark, New Jersey, had like 105 fever, and she was up for days taking care of him. And the doctor said, we don't know if he's going to make it. He was 4. She was pregnant with me. And after 3 days of staying up, she fell into a deep sleep. And she woke up to see a man who looked like a rabbi, like long beard. And he was in like this union suit. It's like a onesie that people from like the early 20th century used to wear. And he was just staring at her. And she had never seen this person. And she was like, who are you? And then the guy just paced to the other side of the bed and kind of went like this and looked at her. And then she kind of woke up a little more like, wait a minute, who are you? How did you get in here? And then he walked to the other side of the bed again. And then she suddenly realized like this is a stranger in the house and I'm alone, like my father was out or something. And she sat up. And the minute she sat up, the person smiled, turned, walked through the wall, according to my mother. And
Wow.
I'm getting goosebumps saying this because
Yeah.
it's weird. And I was there, but not really. I
Yeah.
was disposed in a womb, but she suddenly remembered my brother and saw a golden light down the hall and ran in, and the room was on fire. And there was like a humidifier or something that had caught fire, and there was a column of flames. And in that moment, she thought, do I unplug it, try to be a fire person, or just grab him, call the fire, and run out and call the fire department? And that's what she did. And they put it out. There was some damage, but not, they could still stay there. But when she talked to my grandmother said that described her grandfather or great grandfather that was in somewhere in Poland or Russia that my mom had never met, never seen, never heard about. But before
Wow.
I was born, there was weird stuff happening, Jeremiah.
You do you think that may be the same man or voice or person that guides you in a way through your life and through the various times where you have maybe not been so sure which path to take, and then you hear a voice or you feel something? Do you ever think that way?
I've had friends joke with me, they say you have a spirit guy. I've had friends joke that I have like a whole town council because I have done everything you can do to like die young, and I have failed miserably at it. Whether it's just staying up all night or partying. So these days, at this age, I take really good care of myself. But then I see the humor of things. Like, I don't know, like I have a strange connection to Jimi Hendrix, and I'm a keyboard player. He didn't have keyboards, but I was in a Broadway show, like at 18, you could call like you could look in the Village Voice, the Juanes, and they were doing this thing, Electric God. It opened close on Broadway, but it was about the life of Jimi Hendrix. And then I went to England in the 80s and played with Uli Roth of the Scorpions, and his girlfriend was Monica Donovan, who Jimmy died in her apartment. He was his girlfriend. She was his girlfriend. And then I came back to New York and moved into 59 West 12th Street. And the condo board woman said, when she opened the door for my interview, Jimi Hendrix lived in this building. And I thought, okay, a wild guitar playing, female, mischievous female enjoyer, drug taking, wild rock guitarist is their claim to fame. I'm in the right building. So, so at this point, I'm like, all right, like I like you, but go away, Mr. Hendrick. Like, I don't, and
Yeah.
I like you, but not that much.
Yeah. Like Jimi Hendrix, your spirit guide. I like that. I like that idea. But yeah, eventually you probably want to try some things out on your own. Well, we got to take a break. This is fascinating, Larry. I love your stories. Oh, I have one quick question before we do take that break. So you have found yourself, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment. You found yourself in these iconic moments, these legendary moments in the history of rock and roll with various rock stars and bands, and it happens over and over and over in your life,
Yeah.
and I know it's not lost on you that you appreciate every moment and that you um, contemplate and think about it. But go back to that awkward kid, that young awkward kid that before he was a rock star of his own in high school and in a band and now um, do you feel like that feeling of not belonging maybe, or what's your place in the world, where do I fit in, what do I have to offer, does did that play any part in these moments that you find yourself in, that maybe you've inserted yourself willingly, unconsciously, being that little kid wanting to fit in, wanting to get to know these heroes? Have you ever considered that at all? That that was a part of why you are at where you are.
Another great question. And again, I have goosebumps from this interview, which is pretty rare, and for those of you who know, think like I'm talking about a winged bird. It's when the hair on your arm stands up. My mother had mental illness. And after my parents divorced at a very young age, I became the parent of my parent. So our house, and being Jewish in a predominantly Irish and Italian Catholic family, at Christmas time, everybody's house was lit up. Everybody had a tree in the window, and ours was dark, and the lawn was uncut. And so I really did feel isolated and alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why I needed to find a tribe, because the tribe of school at that time in the 1970s is still very much the tribe of a large part of the first world. It's going to joining sports teams and girls being
Yeah.
cheerleaders and guys being baseball players and all of those things that are the iconic cliches of modern culture. And when your house is dark at Christmas and everyone else has a warm family, and you're kind of with someone who you may have to take to the hospital because they're paranoid or depressed,
Mm-hmm.
I think it pushed me to find something that was my own, that was excellent. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you do that, you find other people who have the same passion for that. The kids would come over and say, "Hey, there's a party tonight. There's a kegger, come." And I'd be like, "No, I'm practicing the piano." And I'd obsessively play for 8 hours a day, like classical things, Bach and Beethoven and Chopin, and then I also learned the blues from this sort of hippie guy nearby. So by freshman year, I was way ahead, and the guys were still in a keg party in the basement, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how I kind of suddenly found that place. So yes, it's always like the ugly duckling and the swan.
Mm-hmm. What a beautiful story though, of how you felt, and then how you've made this incredible career out of your life. Um,
Thank you.
okay, well, now I've got chills. So let's take our break. We'll come right back.
Yes.
Um, don't go anywhere though. Larry Devon has brought us really Dvoskin, excuse me. Really, I'm reading my world premiere here. The unreleased Al Jardine of the Beach Boys song as Wish. It hasn't been released. He's brought that to us. And he's also brought us an unplugged version of The Love by Sammy Hagar, co-written by Sammy, Neil, is it Schon?
It's Schon, Neil Schon.
Schon.
If you heard "Don't Stop Believing," I'm
Yeah.
doing a little like kind of Wayne's World there, but you get the idea. very renowned,
Yes.
full of high musical caliber. That's an honor to be listed next to.
Yes, Larry Dvoskin is my special guest today. He's a songwriter, a music producer, entrepreneur. We're going to talk about his tech. He's looking out for you, musicians, songwriters. I think it's amazing. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. Following this one, we're going to talk about some of the incredible people you've bumped into, the incredible stories that you have in rock and roll history. Like they say about you, I love this. You're the Forrest Gump of rock and roll. You look at a photo, you can see Larry there somewhere. Larry Dvoskin is my special guest today. His solo album, which we will be playing throughout the show, music from, is called Life is Strange. You can find him on social media on Instagram at Larry Dvoskin, Dvoskin. Facebook, the same. And on X, Larry Dvoskin. They're all the same.
Oh, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
Who is that
You're
guy?
one of the few that actually has the same handle for every social site. I love that you do because it's so confusing when they have everybody's got underscore and three different names. It's hard to track that down. So go
What?
track them down right now. You got time during the break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with Larry Dvoskin, my special guest. I'm going to tell you what we're listening to going out right now. Waves of Love, Al Jardine. Do you want to say anything about this, Larry, before I
Well,
play?
in the chorus, we have Carl Wilson, one of his last, the great voice of God Only Knows and Good Vibrations, sang the harmonies with Al and myself at probably his last recording, which was done after a show in Atlantic City in the early 90s. And he passed away not that long after. So it's a good time song. And
Mm-hmm.
in the
It is a good.
spirit, in the spirit of the Beach Boys, that good times, up-tempo fun thing.
That's exactly how I felt when I was listening to it. Waves of Love, Al Jardine. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.